Do you love the taste of natural sweet honey? Not the store shelf kind, but the real deal straight from a local hive. There's nothing to compare when talking about the natural sweet taste of honey straight from your own hive. The creation of honey is an amazing process, leaving us with an appreciation for some of our smallest creatures. These little creatures are called honeybees. Honeybees live in hives or colonies. Honeybees live in hives or colonies divided into three types: queen bee, worker bee, and drone bee. There's only one queen bee in the whole colony, and she is bigger than the average bee. She is 1.5 times the size of a worker bee. The drone bees are the male group of the bees, and their job is to mate with the queen. The worker bees are the infertile females that do all the work. Their job is to feed the queen and the drones, build and protect the hive, and collect pollen. Worker bees are the only bees that most people see outside of the hive. They will range to a 5-mile radius outside of their hive, although they will stay pretty close to the hive. The highest population of a colony is usually in midsummer or the build up of spring, which results into 60,000 to 80,000 bees. On an average, worker bees in the summer live to about 6 to 8 weeks. Their most common death is wearing out of their wings. If the queen dies, worker bees will create another one. How they do so is by selecting 10 eggs that are 3 days old and feed them royal jelly. If 2 or more queen bees hatch, they will fight to the death. About 3 to 5 days after emerging, she will find a place where the male drone bees from other hives hang out and wait for a queen. Queen bees typically mate with 10 to 20 drones over the course of their mating flights. Once the queen has mated, she will never leave the colony again. The queen stays in the hive, producing 2,000 eggs a day. The egg is only about 2 millimeters long, which is about the size of a grain of rice. 3 days after the queen lays the egg, it hatches into a larva. She lays a single egg in each cell that has been cleaned and prepared by the workers to raise a new brood. The cell must be spotless or the queen will move on to the next. The workers that build the cell are the ones that have the ratio of how many females and how many worker male bees there are. They do this by building smaller cells for the female worker bees and bigger cells for the drone bees. Have you ever heard of honeycombs? Honeycombs are small individual hexagon shapes inside of the hive. Each individual hexagon is called a cell. Each cell is made with beeswax from the abs of the bees. The cell is used for different things, such as store the honey, the pollen, and a room for where they lay their young. Worker bees are only like certain flowers when out foraging for nectar. These flowers contain a sugary nectar and pollen that is high in protein. When bees collect nectar, they use a long tongue called proboscideans that slide down into the flower and suck the nectar out like a straw. They store the nectar in a second stomach, sometimes called a honey stomach. Honeybees have tiny hairs all over their body, allowing pollen to stick to them so they can carry the pollen while flying. It is important to note that bees do not turn their vomit into honey. That's a myth. When the workers return to the hive with the nectar that she has foraged, then there will be a younger worker bee waiting. This waiting bee is often referred to as the house bee. Her job is to suck the nectar out of the honey stomach, out of the forager's stomach. Once the nectar has been transferred, the house bee will then chew it for 30 minutes. While she is chewing, there's enzymes in her mouth which make the nectar oh so better. While chewing this for 30 minutes, it is making the syrup. Once she is finished chewing, the worker will distribute the syrup over into the cell. She'll fill it up to the top so there was no air or water getting in, causing it to be thicker. She will then cap the beeswax off from her stomach, spinning up once the honey is done and is right with the right consistency, she will then cap it off with the beeswax. The amazing thing about honey is it will never go bad if it has no air or water.